Hello and welcome everyone. You are in the Just One Thing for Health room, Zoom room, and this is part of the Hippocrates Docs program offerings. And we are here to talk about something that happened just recently, and that is Dr. Chris Miller, our own Hippocrates doc, interviewed Dr. Joel Fuhrman. And it was such a great conversation because out of it, you could clearly hear the message. Go all in, 100%. And so, with that said, I'm going to say, welcome, Dr. Miller. And how about introducing yourself and telling our audience a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be here tonight as well. I'm a former emergency room physician who has turned into lifestyle medicine and integrative medicine to help heal my own chronic illness. And that's what my practice is now for the past 5 years. I've been working here in Aspen area, and I've been helping people with chronic illness. I myself first learned about this journey when I was searching for ways to improve my own health, and I came across Dr. Joel Fuhrman and his Nutritarian diet. And so my husband and I flew out to New Jersey, and we learned all about the science and how to do it and why it works so well, and saw other success stories. And we did that in a weekend with Dr. Fuhrman. And this was 7 years ago now, I believe. And ever since, I've been a Nutritarian. So it was such an honor for me to get to interview Dr. Fuhrman.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, you actually looked like you were enjoying that. And the interaction was so nice to see. He's such a great guy. What was it like when you first started this journey and you met him and kind of expressed what was going on with you? How did he receive that and give you that space to go on this journey with him?
Yeah. First of all, for me, it was mind blowing. I had trained in medical school, two residencies, internal medicine and emergency medicine, and was an emergency room physician. And I didn't know any of this. I had never heard of this science. I had no idea. So when I first learned it, it was literally mind blowing for me. I was taking notes and researching it myself, and I couldn't believe it. So that was how I took it. And then when I met him, he works with a lot of autoimmune people. He works with people of all sorts of chronic illness, all different ages, and he has so much experience with it. So he just had so much like, this is the path you need to follow. And of course, it's individualized, and I needed to tweak things over the years. So I've definitely tweaked it for me, but he definitely knew how to get me started, and he got me inspired, and he showed me other people. And if they could do it, I could do it. And so he was great. And I've definitely kept in touch with him over the years, mostly for my own health issues. And he is just so great. He was here in Aspen for a ski getaway, and he was giving talks, and we were all here learning to be healthy and or healthier, and yeah, it was great.
Awesome, awesome. So, your conversation and the thing that he is known for coining is the nutritarian diet. What is that?
Yeah, he explains it real well. So I asked him, what is it that's so unique about the nutritarian diet? And he says there's four real things about it. The first one is it's a high nutrient per calorie diet, because all of the studies have shown that for to have healthy aging and slow the aging process and prevent disease, you want the most nutrients you can get in the fewest calories. So that's his first philosophy. His second one to the nutritarian diet is eating to balance your hormones. And that's your insulin, that's your glucose, that's or not your glucose, your insulin, your glucagon, that's your estrogen, IGF-1 hormone. So there's all these hormones that are affected directly by the foods that we eat. And so he wants to keep all that in balance for healthier aging as well. The third one is to make sure you have comprehensive nutrient adequacy. think he calls it, CNA. And that comprehensive nutrient adequacy prevents you from being deficient in any nutrient. Because if you're deficient in any nutrient at all, your body's going to break down. You're not going to be your healthiest self. And the goal is to be your healthiest self and to age well without chronic illness. And so that includes eating a diversity of plant-based foods and not being limited, not being restricted, being mindful that you have a well-balanced plate, that you're getting enough fats in, that you're getting enough protein, even that as a vegan eater. So it's making sure you are getting enough of all these macro and micronutrients. And then the fourth one is avoiding toxins. And we had a discussion about that, actually. Like brown rice now has been shown to have arsenic. And so we were asking him when he was in Aspen, should we not be eating brown rice? And he said, well, you need to look for sources where it's not contaminated with arsenic, right? So he's very mindful that the food we're eating is the best food, that it's not affecting us, that it's not toxic. And this also includes environmental exposures and other types of toxins we might take in, because if we take in too many toxins, then our bodies can break down, even if we're eating well and doing all his other steps. So that's an important part of it as well. He didn't talk so much about stress, but he does in some of his books, and that as well can be a toxin. So those are the 4 plans to the Nutritarian diet, and that's what makes it so unique, that it's so comprehensive.
That is amazing, because that's one of the things that most people say about becoming plant-based. It's not going to give me everything that I need. Mm-hmm. Speak to that and the fact that there are those pieces that make it so comprehensive.
Yeah, so that's the thing. When people go vegan, they're cutting out animal products, no dairy, no meat, but they're not necessarily getting all of their zinc, all of their selenium, all of their EPA, DHA. Magnesium is an easier one, but some of these are tricky. They're only found in certain foods, and some of us don't absorb them as well. So if we're not eating a comprehensive diet, including colors of the rainbow, lots of green leafy vegetables, but also legumes, all the different types of seeds, a little bit of nuts, if we're not getting all these different nutrients in, we could be deficient. And even with that, he talks about there are a few supplements, because some people don't absorb it well, or they don't, if they absorb it, the ALA, for example, the fatty acids, it has to be converted into DHA and EPA. And some people can't do that as well. And so he has learned in seeing vegans aging that a little touch of a supplement of DHA has prevented any problems in people who don't absorb it as well, or don't metabolize it as well. So he's mindful of all of these types of things, which I find very interesting to realize that we are all unique. And so we have to be aware of how we're all doing on a certain diet plan.
That is so great. And the difference between, what adults need and what children need. And I love how he talked about the children that he had as clients. Yeah. Do you see any children in your new practice? And if so, do you have some examples as to what you're seeing these children come in with as far as issues and how you're helping them?
Yeah, I see some children, not a ton, probably mostly adults, but I do see a few children, some children with gut issues, for example, kids that are gassy, bloated, diarrhea, constipated, belly pain, and they've been seen in Denver at University of Colorado and by their pediatrician here in Aspen, and then they come see me with that. I see kids with allergies. I see kids with eczema, pretty severe eczema that can totally resolve with dietary changes. Amazing, I tell you. Ear infections I see kids with, or kids that are just getting sick all the time. So their moms will bring them in to me because they're getting sick a lot. They've been on antibiotics and they're getting worried about them. Those are probably the main things. And then I've seen a few different things, but that's what I've seen. And what is so interesting about the Nutritarian diet specifically that Dr. Fuhrman talks about is our diet needs change throughout life. So a child's needs are going to be a little bit different from a middle-aged woman's needs like myself, or a man's needs. And then as we age beyond that, our needs will change. And so we tweak the diet a little bit throughout life, depending on what our needs are. So kids are a perfect example of that.
Wow. Yes, yes. And kudos to those parents who really are looking to help their kids, taking them to the University of Denver and and their pediatrician, and then to you as well.
Yeah.
There are a lot of populations that the kids are suffering, and they're saying that they are, and there's no one that has this information that can help them. So kudos to you, and thank you for being out there and really making a difference in these populations. And so how are you seeing that most people are resolving the food issue? How do they have access to the food? Whole Foods isn't available to a lot of people. Trader Joe's, those are just a couple of names that I know that specialize in having what's available that we're talking about. What are you seeing, and what are you recommending to patients?
Yeah, well, we're up in the mountains, so we don't have a Trader Joe's, and our Whole Foods is half an hour away. But people can improve their health just by going to our grocery store. We have great fruits and vegetables and beans and rice and, the necessities, and you can do it cheaply. I have patients who have no health insurance, and I have them shop at Walmart, Costco. They buy what's on sale. We do frozen things. We buy seasonal. We buy local. Grow your own garden. So we're working on all these things for people who can't afford it. And people are reversing disease even with that. It's always amazing to me. I asked Dr. Fuhrman about that because I get so excited when I see it. And he said he still does too. So yeah, and then people, if they want to do organic and they have more money or more means, certainly they can go to Whole Foods, but you absolutely don't need to. I don't shop at Whole Foods. I don't need to. I just, every now and then, if I happen to be in the area, I'll pick up something. But I don't shop there regularly. I don't need to. So
That's awesome. And I'm glad that our audience is hearing this, because I know that that is an issue with a lot of people. I just can't buy the best fresh vegetables. And I know that with Walmart, they're doing so much better these days with their local grown and their fresh produce. And now Amazon has gotten where I was reading an article a couple of weeks ago that they have actually reduced the cost of fresh vegetables when you order your foods from Amazon.
fantastic.
They come right to your door.
Yeah, that I always tell people, like, if people are so busy working, well, then they can now order home delivery of all the healthy food, and you can get prepared meal kits that you just heat up, or meal kits that you just chop up a little bit and then cook it, or just get your vegetables, like depending how much time you have. And if you don't have a lot of money, well, then you got to go do something quick and local, but you can still there's always a way to make it work depending on what your lifestyle and what's going on with you.
Yes. And so, when you were saying that, the thought came to mind about mindset. And a lot of times people talk themselves out of being able to do certain things. Do you experience that? I mean, when somebody comes to you, are they at that place of, I'll do whatever it takes, or are they still a little bit on the fence and defending their actions of not being able to do things?
It's both, actually, completely both. A lot of it depends on how sick people are. When they're really sick, they're more eager to jump into it. But even with that, I've had patients who've come to see me and been like, for autoimmune issues, and been like, I don't know, that seems too extreme. I'm not sure if I can follow a plan like that. And it's basically a Nutritarian type of plan, a plant-based plan. And so when they see that, they think no. But then I've had patients who've gone to Mayo Clinic or University of Colorado, and their doctor there has recommended a plant-based diet. And so the patients will call me and say, Chris, guess what? I'm going to do it. My doctor recommended it. So it's almost like they needed to hear it again or see more evidence. But a lot of people, I show them the data, I show them success stories, and a lot of people they do jump on board. But admittedly, as people start to feel better, then people start dabbling back into their old diet. And then they start feeling worse again. And so there's so much going back and forth, it seems like. So it's hard for people, right? They're surrounded by unhealthy food and social and emotional, all sorts of issues that drives them back to their original eating. So even though they may start strong and they may get reversal or improvement, it's almost human nature, I think. I don't know, maybe Dr. Fuhrman would disagree, but it's almost human nature for people to fall back in. So that's where it takes, I feel like that's the harder part, the sustainability of it, keeping it going once people realize how good they can feel, not letting it fall off. So. Mm-hmm.
And what do you recommend to help people stay in that sustainability space?
Yeah, it's different for everyone. And again, some people will just stay. They love how they feel. Boom, they're running with it. So that's a certain type of person. But the ones who don't, it's going to depend on the person. So we're going to look at what's going on, why they're falling off. Is it because they're working long hours? They have kids and responsibilities and a job, and they're just, there's not enough time to do healthy food. Or so we try to do social things, keep it social, find them a support group. That's always key. Find them people they can talk to when they're falling off, set the environment, right? Make it healthy so that the default is to eat healthy, and try to work on breaking habits, taking it one day at a time. But it gets tricky. And I do a lot with mindset too, with affirmations, reminding yourself why this matters and your purpose and your goals. Because in the moment, it's easy to be like, oh, but that chocolate bar looks so good. But my goal is to reverse my chronic illness, right? So they're not in coherence with each other. And so, so these are tricks, some of the tricks, but each person's different. I myself had to work on my own tricks because I had moments where I just wanted to eat extra food or do something that maybe I wasn't supposed to do. And so I understand it completely. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we all understand it. And it is a space that I want to say everyone that I've spoken to has been in, even if it's just been for a short period of time. And that in that short period of time, they've been able to decide, okay, I do not want to go back to that. So I'm over here and I'm committed to this. And, it's a lot of times too, that commitment to ourselves. We're always, especially women, the last ones to commit to self because everybody else is more important. The kids, the parents, the husband, the job. And it really is about learning how to commit to self. Yeah. And I love one of our doctors happened to say, if I'm not doing well, how can everyone else be doing well?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so true. That's a good reminder. Yep.
Yeah. So tell us about the book that Dr. Fuhrman is now recommending, and the reason that he's recommending this book to people starting the journey versus Eat to Live.
That was really interesting, right? Because before the actual interview, we were talking about it, and he goes, I no longer recommend Eat to Live. And I was like, what? That's the one book that helped me at the beginning, and that's the one I tell people as they were getting started, or one of them. I have several, but so I was surprised myself when he said that. But now he's recommending the end of dieting, and he said the thing with Eat to Live is the science hasn't changed, so it's all good. That part's all good, but he was looking at studies that showed that if you eat at least 90 to 95% even plant-based foods, that those people all aged well. And so that leaves you like a 5%, maybe up to a 10% in some window. And then he shortened it to 5% to kind of cheat or fall off or splurge or whatever you want to call it. And the rest of the time you're eating perfectly well. And he said that turns out to be too lenient because too many people, what is 5% or 10% of the calories? Like we don't even know. And so we might end up overeating or taking in too many calories. And then what really happens to a lot of us is, and a lot of my patients as well, is our food addictions kick in. So you have a little bit of it and then you want more. And then it's easier to overeat. It's easier to crave more sweets and more things that we're not supposed to eat, maybe salt or whatever it is for that person. And so he said that window, when you have a chronic illness, whether it's an autoimmune or it's cancer or it's heart disease or asthma or you're overeating or food addictions, you can't do that 5 to 10%. That's sabotaging you. So that's why he said too many people are reading this book and they're not getting where they need to be because he allowed that leniency. And the end of dieting, it has a lot more about mindset. It's a lot more about food addictions. It's a lot more about why we don't do it when we know the science, and why we let ourselves fall off, and how hard it is and what we should do. And he gives tools to help navigate some of that. So that it's a different type of book, although the science at the beginning is basically the same type of stuff. So he has that too. And the recipes are very similar too. So it's not too different there. Little different ones, new ones, but same idea. So yeah, it was so interesting when he said. Then he's working on a new book right now. So I don't know when. I have no idea when that's going to be released. But he said that might be his final book. So I'll have to make sure we read it.
Yeah. So does No More Dieting or The End of Dieting come with cookbook as well?
Yeah, it has recipes at the back. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they're fun. It's a little bit different recipes from Eat to Live. So if you combine the recipes from Eat to Live with the recipes from The End of Diet, you've got enough to keep you going. And really, he says things, and I recommend the same thing too. It's not like you need to try a new recipe every single day, right? I like to cook on the weekends often, Saturday or Sunday, and then I put it in the fridge or the freezer for the week, so I don't have to prepare anything too long time that takes too long. And then during the week, I'll just do quick throw together things. So, but yeah, I'll really prepare only about 3 meals, like different meals for the week, and then we'll eat leftovers, or we'll do a quick thing, something like that. So yeah, so there's a ton of recipes between those 2 books for people.
Any favorites of yours?
Oh gosh, I have a lot of favorites. One of them is his classic anti-cancer soup, he calls it. And you can find this online for people who don't have the books. It's just Google anti-cancer soup, Dr. Fuhrman, and the recipe's everywhere. It's wonderful. He uses carrot juice and celery juice because both of that is anti-cancer properties, and as the base instead of like a vegetable stock, and it just makes it so flavorful. And then he adds his beans, which are anti-cancer, and the mushrooms, and then all the vegetables, and it's so delicious. So that's one of my favorites.
Okay, I like that. I'm gonna have to try that one.
Yeah, it takes a little time to make, but it makes a huge pot, and it's so good, and it's so satisfying. So it really does help with food cravings, I think, because you have a bowl of that and you feel good. So yeah, it's worth it.
So talk to us about the food cravings thing. We learned a few weeks back about the bliss point and the whole fast food industry that really has that down to a science, how to addict you. But talk to us a little bit about the science of that addiction and how the Nutritarian diet actually counteracts it.
There's several parts to food addictions and food cravings. One is a hormonal. So if you're eating and you're getting glucose spikes, then your insulin's going to follow, then it's going to crash. And when it crashes, then you crave sweets again, and carbohydrates and fats, like foods to bring your sugar back up rapidly. That's what your body needs to do for survival. And so you'll get cravings with that. So if you're eating food without fiber, unhealthy processed foods that bring the bliss point, like you just talked about, you're going to get those highs and those lows, and you're going to get more cravings. So one way that a simple Nutritarian diet will correct that is by balancing your hormones, like Dr. Fuhrman said. That was his second goal of his plan. And it balances your blood glucose, balances your insulin. Those cravings start to melt away just with that step alone. So you don't even have to say, oh, I can't eat sugar anymore. You just start filling the fiber-rich foods. You start crowding that out, and those cravings start falling away, where soon these foods taste better, and you don't want the sugar because you don't have that low. So that's one. And the second thing, there's again several, but it lights up your dopamine in your brain, which is for survival. And your dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and it's pleasure. And so the things are sex to reproduce, get to like intimacy sex, that'll lead to dopamine boost, and food will lead to dopamine boost because we need to eat, right? And being comfortable, warm, and in a good, loving environment. Those types of things are things that are absolutely essential to us for survival. And so just like cocaine can cause a dopamine boost, they found that certain foods like sugar, for example, can also cause a very similar, it lights up our brain and the dopamine centers just like cocaine does. And so it's definitely when you create the bliss point, they're just the right amount of salt and sugar and fat. It lights up that dopamine center, and we want more. We truly can't have just one. Our body is going to go for more dopamine hits, just like it does a drug addict. Probably not as severe. So for drug addicts out there, I don't mean to say that this is, but it's hard because we need to eat, and yet if we're eating the wrong foods, we're lighting up the dopamine. And that's the part that's really uncomfortable at the beginning. And Dr. Fuhrman talks about this. When you switch over to a Nutritarian plan, the first couple weeks, maybe even longer, when you get withdrawal symptoms, so it's just headaches and nausea and shakes, rashes. So people can get withdrawal from cutting out those foods. And two, your mind just really wants it, and it'll do anything it can to sabotage you and bring you back to your old way of eating and your old illness. And that's where the first couple of weeks you need support. You got to be strong. You got to build new habits. You got to set the environment. You got to remember your purpose and why this is important, and really overcome it. Because once that falls aside after a couple of weeks, usually for most people, maybe a little longer depending on the person, but when it falls aside, it becomes easy. Then you don't think about it. You're not like crazy about it. And now you can just eat your new diet plan and no problems. But it's getting over that hurdle. It can be tough. Yeah, food addictions are brutal. They can be tough.
I love how you explain that. I mean, you just really brought that home. And because it can be, and I think that when people think it's going to be easy or something they'll get into and over quickly, it sets them up for potential failure when they end up saying, well, it's harder than I thought. And it can be.
It can be, and you can slide back into it. So you'll go, you can, and we're all different too. That's the thing. We're all wired a little bit differently. So one person after a month doesn't want it, doesn't think of it, boom, done. Another person after a month is doing fine too. But then a couple months later, they'll, it's a holiday or a birthday, and they'll have something and they'll fall back into their old patterns, just having that one little bit, which, maybe it's no big deal to have one little bit as far as what it's doing to your body. Your body can handle that. But your mind can't. And now you're back in your old ways, and now your cravings are back, and now and so this can be hard for some people. So again, people are going to respond differently. Some people are like, why is this so hard for you? And other people are like, oh my God, I can't do that. So we have to be mindful of it. We have to be aware, know ourselves, don't have these foods that we are addicted to in our house, and kind of stay away. Don't, if I see something at a party and I know I'm weak at this moment, I got to walk away. I got to fill myself with healthy foods. I'm not hungry. I got to do something, because at a moment of weakness, I don't know what I'll do. So yeah, they're tricky.
They are. Wow. Yeah. And, think about kids going through this too. I mean, they go to school and you don't know what they're eating.
Yeah.
And that's, but what you mentioned, it really is the reason why our nation is like over 50% obese, because the food industry has found this, and it is something that is more chemical than, our just wanting to eat fast food. And when people recognize that and know that, it's the whole Tony Robbins saying, when and Maya Angelou, when you know better, you can do better.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It's contributing to our obesity, and it's contributing to our chronic illnesses. Yeah, and not aging as well, where we're sick and we're on medications and we don't feel good, and we're getting Alzheimer's and diseases like I had in my 30s, which I shouldn't have had, but if I had known how to take care of myself better. So it's scary. And we need help. I mean, I myself need help as a patient, I do. So I'm thankful I have people now to turn to and support and information and everything I need. And it's good for me to do all these things too, because it's always reinforcing it in myself as well. And all of my patients, and we all, we need that support and help, and for the tough moments.
We do. We really do. And for our audience, that's one of the reasons why we are launching the first My Health, My Priority program. It's a 12-week program that we are actually designed the curriculum to support people through a process and 4 pillars of really making it through the hard parts of the journey. And starting off, it really does seem hard sometimes for people. And this program's been designed to have support from doctors like Dr. Chris and others who actually will be participating with how you get supported in the program. And I'm so really just excited about it because there's a lot of things out there for people to be a part of. But this is one of what I've seen in my research, the first programs where the doctors that we've had involved are a part of it, where the nutritionists are a part of it, and where coming together to have some degree of accountability and support, because we do need it. And in a 12-week program, I mean, what are some of the things that you've seen happen to people when they've been on this journey for just 12 weeks? It seems like a long time, but it's not. And it's good time. But what have you seen?
Yo, it's amazing. I mean, I had worked in the emergency room and I had seen lives be saved, but there's something about reversing chronic illness or watching people be empowered and taking charge of their own health that is just so powerful, and it's amazing. And so I have seen, oh gosh, I have seen autoimmune people. I had a woman who couldn't move her whole right side with rheumatoid arthritis, and she had a lot of stress in her life, and we worked on her diet and we worked on her stress. And after 3 months, she was okay. She never had to go on medications like her doctor was prescribing, and it had completely resolved, completely. So that was so powerful. And another woman with psoriatic arthritis, pretty severe in her joints and couldn't ride her bicycle. And she changed her diet and her lifestyle a little bit, and she had significant resolution of it, and she's now sending me recipes and so excited about it and teaching other people, and just an inspiration to watch her. She's back to cycling and being this amazing athlete, and yeah, people lose weight. I mean, they just drop weight rapidly, and diabetes gets under control, and that's really fun to see people when their diabetes, their blood sugars come down and down and down, hemoglobin A1Cs come down, they no longer require the insulin. We have to cut back, and quite quickly, actually, when people really go for it. So that's fun. Blood pressure's coming down. I mean, all these chronic problems, watching it improve, it's crazy. It's really cool.
Well, that is what we are looking forward to seeing from this 12-week program. And our goal is to launch them in various locations all across the country within the next 12 months. And so that's awfully exciting as well. But even more than that, have you seen any really severe cases that have shown marked improvement and or resolved, like you mentioned?
I have seen, mostly I see a lot of autoimmune people, just because I think I have my own autoimmune disease. And so I have seen, myself included, but people with kidney involvement, people requiring, and me, I was on 6 medications, but people requiring immunosuppressives that have tapered down and have been able to get off them, and yeah, complete resolution of symptoms, even after they'd been on meds for, gosh, I had a patient who was on meds for almost 10 years, and she was able to get off them. So if she let herself get stressed out, her symptoms would return a little bit. So she had to eat well and take care of her mental health. So such a good example that stress leads to inflammation, right, and can worsen autoimmune symptoms. So yeah, I've seen people with IBS who can't eat any food anymore because they get gassy and bloated and severe abdominal pain that have been worked up in all these different ERs and by their primary doctors, GI doctor scopes up and down, upper and lower, and they find nothing, but they can't tolerate foods, and so they're miserable, and so completely resolved. It's really cool.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's hope, and there's more than hope, there's evidence. And that's the big thing about all of this. You know, Dr. Fuhrman talked about his 35-year career and how he has really been paying attention to and helping to bring some of the science in with some of the studies. What does he say about the studies that were done 30, 40, 50 years ago, and how are there similar studies going on now, and how are they similar?
Yeah, well, he talks about so there's so many different theories about diet. And so people have a theory and they'll do something, they might have short-term benefits. And so now that's the new diet plan, maybe the fad. So whether it's low carb or high fat or high protein, or, there's all these different plans. And he said, they might have good short-term data actually, but he talks about the importance of looking at long-term studies. So studies over more than just a couple of years. And that's what, like the Seventh-day Adventist study, they can look at people who eat animal protein, people who eat fish, people who are completely vegan, and people who are vegetarian. I don't know, they have some different categories. And they're able to look at it over several years, over 50 years or even longer perhaps. And they can also look at different societies around the world, like the blue zones, and look at what they're eating in long-term studies. And he brings up some different recent articles that have shown the same thing. Long-term data is always showing the same thing, that we need to eat basically a plant-based diet. Some people do eat a little bit of animal protein, but it really is a small amount, and they're eating no processed foods. And people who eat like this really have good data as far as health outcomes, weight, aging well, the things that matter to us, having their mental health. And so, so it's just really important that we look at the real data and we make sure we're looking at long-term studies. So he does talk about that, which that helped me to know which kind of data, to help me interpret data.
Yes. And you mentioned that he brings some of that into this new book. What else does he outline in the new book that might be something that our audience really would want to get into?
Do you mean the end of dieting?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So he talks about the data, what animal protein can cause, why dairy is not recommended. He talks about oil and why he doesn't recommend oil for his patients if you're healing. He talks about processed foods and the bliss point, things like that you talked about. And then the thing that's new, though, is the whole mindset part. That's definitely new. So he doesn't talk about in the earlier books. I think he recognizes, because he's done it for so long, and he recognizes that even though the data is there, even though he teaches people how to do it, even though he gives them recipes and shows them everything they need, people are falling off, myself included. I have my tough moments. And so he now is realizing, okay, there's something going on. I got to help people in a little bit different way. And he is. You can see that he's helping with food addictions. He addresses that. He explains why it's happening. He gives tools. He addresses making sure that we're not stressed and that we're getting sleep and we have social support and love and bigger issues besides just food, because it all makes us, and that contributes to why we're eating, and that all makes us whole. And so he does address that a little bit now in this book. So it's a little bit of a different approach. And he's saying that, you really got to go for it, though. If you want to heal, that's what you talked about at the beginning of this talk, is that you got to go all in. You just got to do it, and it gets easier that way anyway. Some people can do just one step, and but people who are really sick or have really bad food addictions, that could sabotage them. And so those are the type of people that just got to go for it, and that's what he talks about in this book.
Well, that is an awesome segue into the whole discussion about 100%. If you really want to see the results that you're going for, go for it. 100%. High nutrient, low calorie, and lots of water.
Yep, that's right. No, that's right. All of those things, and diversity, and don't take in toxins if you can. But yeah, really go for it. Absolutely. And it's easier because when you do something 100%, you just do it, right? You say, this is what I'm having for breakfast, lunch, dinner. This is the type of person I am, the type of person that just eats this, and it's done. There's no willpower. There's no, but maybe I'll just have a little. Once you allow yourself, okay, I can have a small amount of something, well, then your small amount might lead to bigger amount, or you might want more. You might want another small amount later in the day. And all of a sudden it becomes willpower and it becomes hard. Plus you keep your food addictions. So if you keep having a little bit every day, you keep reinforcing those food addictions, you keep reinforcing those habits. And so you want to form new habits. You want to change your taste buds. All of this is so much easier when you do it 100%. I know that's what I had to do. I had to go 100%, and I'm thankful I did, because I don't know if I could have willpowered my way through it, but there wasn't willpower because I didn't allow it.
That is so great. That is so great. And so, Dr. Miller, what would you tell our audience? You know, we want to leave them with something that helps them to really hold on to this 100% thinking.
Yeah.
What would you tell our audience to help them?
Yeah, I would tell everyone out there, just like I learned 7 years ago, that there's hope. There's hope for us with chronic illness, because having a chronic illness is the scariest thing that ever happened to me, and it's hard, and you don't know that you can get better. So number one, people are getting better. You can get better. We don't know how much better, but everyone can get better through making dietary changes. If you're really sick, if you have food addictions, and we know ourselves, like I know I have food addictions, but going 100%, giving yourself 4 to 6 weeks, really going for it and watch what happens. It can be awesome, amazing, and it's worth it. So make plans and go for it is what I would tell people there. And there is hope for healing.
Thank you so much. That is so encouraging. And that's what we're about. You know, we know that changing habits and lifestyles is daunting without support. And this is the space for the support. This is the space where you know that the resources that you need are here. The information that you need is here. And the connections to doctors like Dr. Miller, they're here. And I encourage you to reach out to her. You can find her through the Week 34 page on our website. And you can join us again next week for another episode of Hippocrates Docs Just One Thing for Health, because we are here to support you. And while you're on this journey, you're not alone. You've heard Dr. Miller, you've heard me talk about being on this journey as well. And there's so many of us in our community. Make sure you join our Facebook page and come hang out with us. Make a comment on some of the posts. And they've actually been, I have to admit, they've been some amazing posts that have been food for thought and you know, support for change. And there will be more, and we welcome you to partake of it all, because this is for you. Thank you so much, Dr. Miller, for being here. Thank you for taking the time to interview Dr. Fuhrman and bringing that information to us and sharing with us as you have tonight. So appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
And to our audience, thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching the replay if that's you out there. And check us out for next time. Also, go to the website and find out what has been there before. Dr. Miller does have another page there where she talks about stress. And you can see her challenge video and her Q&A video from that. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. We will see you next time on the Just One Thing for Health show. We're actually migrating to that format. So do stay in touch with us. Thanks, and bye for now.